Hey everybody, in the kitchen with Chef Lindsay Brooks from Runaway Spoon. Always a pleasure to
Yes,
see
thank you,
and
Amy.
cook
You
with
too.
you. I love, fall and when the weather starts to get a little bit cool and, where a cold dessert just doesn't quite feel right. You know?
And you want to turn the oven on to warm up the house a little bit. Maybe you want a little cinnamon to kind of have the whole house smell wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And still so on trend these days are those classic comforting desserts like crisps. A great apple crisp, but we're going to take this to a whole nother level and do a fall fruit crisp. So it's taking the apple crisp, just bumping it up a notch and using some other things.
Yeah, definitely.
But
So,
easy.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking at the ingredients, just a handful of things.
Yep, things that are in season, things you probably have in your house.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to work on the crisp topping,
Okay.
which is pretty much equal parts brown sugar, flour, oatmeal, and butter.
Okay.
And a pinch of cinnamon goes in there.
Okay, so and just the regular, the oats.
Yep, I don't do the quick cooking, I do the regular ones.
Okay.
I like them to kind of hold up a little bit more and melt away.
And a combination of the oats and the flour. I like that idea.
Yep.
Some people just use the flour.
Yep, and you could if you didn't have the oats, but I
Okay.
like the crunch, of course.
Quite a bit of cinnamon in here.
Yep.
Good cinnamon. We've talked about that before.
Yes. So definitely go out and buy a little bit nicer cinnamon, either a Saigon cinnamon or just a true cinnamon too.
And cinnamon, like, it loses its punch. So if you've had that, container of cinnamon for like 4 years in your pantry, splurge and get some new stuff. And some of these specialty stores, I know the Bulk Food Shop is one of them that carry all sorts of wonderful different types of cinnamon.
And spices really and herbs kind of last maybe 6 months. Then you should really change them out.
Yes.
And believe it or not, they can either go rancid or they've just lost their flavor.
Yeah, totally.
And if you're going to take the time to make something from scratch, put the right ingredients in.
And that's inexpensive. And then I see that you melted the butter, which makes things really easy. You don't really have to even cut it into.
Yep. Sometimes you can make them like in a food processor, but I like the melted butter, and then that kind of just, the brown sugar and the butter all melt on top, and it just kind of gets caramelized.
It makes it easy to mix together. That's good. Now, as far as the fruit go, fall fruit, I never thought of using pear in a crisp.
Oh, it's wonderful. This came about because my in-laws have a pear tree, and every year you have an abundance amount of pears, and what do you do with them, and how do you cook with them? So I took my apple crisp and made it into a fall crisp. I also have dried cherries that go into it. Cranberries work too if you like cranberries in them.
And peel on. You're leaving the skin on.
I do. I think it holds up better. The fruit stays a little bit firmer. It doesn't get as mushy. And of course, that's where all the fiber is too, is in the skin. So it helps balance things out a little bit.
I just got a Facebook question. Somebody asked me, for desserts, do you have to peel apples? And my response to her was, I normally don't because I'm lazy and I don't like to peel. However, it really depends on the dessert. So this is very rustic. You don't have to. But if you were making something that was a little more, fancy.
Like a French apple tart or something like that, you probably would want to peel it because you'd want a nice softer consistency to it.
Sure.
And apple pie too, if you like kind of a smoother, creamier apple pie filling.
Yes.
Definitely peel them. Otherwise, kind of lazy.
Not my favorite thing to do. Okay, so our pears are all done.
Yep. If you want to toss together the brown sugar, we've got a couple tablespoons of flour.
Now this is interesting. Instead of white sugar we're going to toss the fruit with, we're going to do brown sugar. Why do that?
Again, that fall flavor, that kind of molasses flavor, if you will, is really nice. Gives it a little bit more moisture and just a little more flavor. Just keeps adding a few more layers. And
flour, of course, these are going to release some juices. So this kind of, I call it a gravy. That's not really but it'll tighten up the wonderful juices that are released.
It will, yep. And you could go to cornstarch if you wanted, or arrowroot if you were going to try to keep the flour out of it. But flour to me is kind of the easiest. You typically have it on hand, and a couple tablespoons typically does what it needs to do.
But don't leave some sort of tightening ingredient out because it really does make a nice sauce.
Yeah, you're going to end up having the fruit stew, if you will, and you want it to be a little bit thicker than that.
Yep. In goes dried cranberries, cherries,
whatever. You have. Yep. I like cherries, store county cherries. I tend to have them around, and they seem to fit fall nicely.
Yeah,
but
really nice.
Fresh cranberries in here too would be just fine, and they kind of pop and they leave a nice golden red color.
Just maybe like a quarter of a cup or something like that?
Yep,
okay.
Not too much because they are pretty tart, but you could definitely add them for a little bit of.
Pretty during cranberry season. I love that idea. And this is just vanilla, good vanilla.
Yep. And sometimes I even put plums in here too if I have them floating around, depending if I've got fresh plums.
What about like nectarine or a peach? A little bit of that. Would that work in here?
Yeah, that works. That's more of a summer fruit,
Right.
but if you have them, go for
Right.
it.
Just
It's kind of a nice medley as far as what you have, the brown sugar and the flour and the vanilla.
Really nice. And I wouldn't have also thought to put the vanilla in, so that's another nice little addition.
Yeah.
So just spray your casserole dish,
Yep.
dump it all in.
Yep, this will do an 8-inch baking pan, or if you have kind of a round or oval baking dish, that works too. A little bit of spray just so that the sugars don't stick too much on the bottom.
And then just kind of take this crisp and just kind of dot
just
it
that
all
oatmeal,
over.
the yummy part of the.
Yeah.
And
Okay, here's my little thing. I double that part of the recipe. Bob and I fight over the crisp in our house. Ireland too. Just more crisp, more better. And you certainly could do that, right?
You know, and if I make it for my husband, I normally do a flatter sheet because he likes the crispy, crunchy corners of everything too.
Yum.
But I like the gooey center of it.
Ooh,
So,
yeah, it was so yummy.
You're gonna bake it just like this, 350 uncovered, and it only takes about 45 minutes. You want the fruit to be tender.
You will smell it.
Yes,
And,
that's good, true.
Some desserts are just best warm out of the oven, and this is going to be
This is one of them,
Oh
and
my
with
gosh.
ice cream, whipped cream, or just by itself is
Ooh,
delightful. It
it
starts to
smells
bubble around the edges too, is another clue that it's ready.
Heavenly, absolutely heavenly. Lindsay does a really neat thing at her place besides catering fancy parties and baking wedding cakes for fancy weddings or small weddings or doing cake for any occasion. You've started a thing where you actually will deliver dinner is it Wednesdays?
Wednesdays, yep.
Every Wednesday. So if you just want a date night at home or want to celebrate somebody's special birthday at home, there's a set menu. You pick one of two choices,
Yep.
and you can have a really nice dinner by a chef brought to your home.
Yeah, go to runspoon.com, send me an email that says, hey, I want to know more. I'll send you information and we'll see if it works.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay, as always. And I can hardly wait for this to cool off just a little bit. Give me a bowl with some vanilla ice cream and spin some of that fall fruit crisp on the top. We'll put the recipe on the website. Stay with us. We'll be right back.